innings. He has allowed runs in 2 of his 7 outings.
Kind of sounds like some good stuff.
Ryan Ludus, the Wash U grad, who developed some sort of a platform for or a program for the Cardinals, then became one of their pitchers. He also has pitched in 7 games and gone 7 innings and allowed 3 runs. He allowed 3 runs in an inning in his season debut, Brooke, in March 30th, but now has gone 6 straight outings without allowing a run. That brings us to Ryan Fernandez.
It does. And that's where a lot of people are very angry this morning, because you had a chance to win the series. As we just mentioned, Miles Miklasz, 6 shutout innings, and I was not expecting that whatsoever. And who do you bring up in a situation where it is a tied game? You bring in the reliever with a 11.25 ERA for whatever reason, Ryan Fernandez, in that game. I don't understand it, Randy. I don't. And if we can pull up Katie Woo's quote from Ollie Marmol, because of course he was asked about this after the game, and I don't exactly understand the reasoning behind this. So if you guys watch, obviously Ryan Fernandez comes in the game and the game is tied. And what does Ryan Fernandez do?
Third pitch, he allows a home run to somebody named Eli White.
And you knew it was going to happen, right? Yeah. Just outside of his ERA, we have talked about Ryan Fernandez, and he has just really lost confidence in his stuff. So Katie Woo of The Athletic has this quote from Ollie Marmol about the struggling relievers after the game. And Ollie said, "This is who we got, and we got to get them back on track. We have to get these guys better, and the only way is for them to pitch." Okay, so we're going with the runway theme is what I'm gathering from Ollie Marmol here. But
I sent you a GIF of a runway yesterday.
You did, and that was a plane that was not handling the runway well, which is very metaphorical with what we're seeing with Ryan Fernandez. I understand that that's what we're doing with the positional players, because that's another quote that we can get to it with Ollie Marmol. I understand we're doing that with the positional players where they have to fail. We have to work through it. We talked about Nolan Gorman yesterday, but Randy, how different is it with a reliever when a guy has lost confidence in his stuff? Do you keep putting him out there, especially in a moment where the game is tied and it's a really tough situation?
No, it seems to me you do what you did with Roycroft, and they had a plan for Roycroft to send him down and hopefully get him going again. He also threw a scoreless inning last night, by the way, but Fernandez is so hit or miss. So he didn't allow a run in his first outing of the year. Then he allowed runs in 3 consecutive outings. Then he came back and didn't allow a run in 4 consecutive outings. And now in his last 3, he's allowed 1 run in no innings, 3 runs in an inning, and 1 run in 2/3 of an inning. And oh, by the way, I don't know if this is a sandwich or not, but after he allowed the home run, he did strike out his last 2.
Well, there's a nice little surprise at the end there. Yeah. They're good for Ryan Fernandez, but I can't agree with Ollie Marmol in that decision there. I don't understand why you would put Ryan Fernandez in that situation where you know that he's not going to succeed. You mentioned the numbers there, and in 18 of the 15 losses, when they put in Ryan Fernandez, when Ollie Marmol puts in Ryan Fernandez, he has given up 13 runs, 11 of them earned, 15 hits, 5 walks, and 8 and 2/3 innings pitch. And opponents are hitting 375 against him. Slugging is 700. I mean, it's just the numbers. If this is an analytical team that's doing a balance of gut and numbers, the numbers are not aligning to show you that Ryan Fernandez has his stuff going right now.
And here's another point to be made, Brooke. Because of what you just said, the numbers not aligning. And with the stated intention to develop young players, why not see a guy like Swanson?
What happened? Yeah, why is Swanson not on the good list? You have him there for whatever reason. Ollie doesn't want to use him, and he's thrown once. I don't understand why you just keep trucking a guy like Fernandez out there. Fernandez, by the way, is 28 years old. So if we're talking about this youth movement runway and giving these players an opportunity, even when they fail, that you have to work through it. Fernandez is 28 years old. He's not an arm that was grown within your organization.
Right.
So what is the runway for Ryan Fernandez?
Apparently, it's pretty substantial. It seems like it, doesn't it? I mean,
just let him blow up out there on the mound.
And he's got to become, at this point, you can't, because it affects your group of guys.
It does.
If you keep trotting him out there. And Tony La Russa always said, those last at-bat losses are the most heartbreaking, that affect a team the most. When you have a bad bullpen or an inefficient bullpen, it affects your team more than any other thing. If you're losing games in last at-bats. Of the Cardinals' 11 losses on the road, 6 of them are in the opposition's last at-bat.
That's concerning.
Yeah,
That is
that's the
concerning.
bullpen, right?
And we talked about the quote too that Ollie is talking about making sure giving these young relievers or relievers in general runway. He said this prior to the game yesterday. So this is prior to Fernandez going out there. And he was asked by media members why he's not quick to send relievers off to the minors. And Ollie said, we treat bullpen arms different than the position players because when it doesn't go the reliever's way, the game usually flips and it hurts. So the bullpen is the hardest area to be patient in.
But we've been playing a month now. Isn't that enough?
That's
a month
enough.
and how many appearances for Ryan? And this isn't Ryan's fault, by the way.
No, and I
He's not
hate
putting
that because we're
himself
not.
into games.
No, do you think Ryan Fernandez wanted to go out in that
No,
situation?
probably not.
Is that something that's going to
No.
build up his confidence? If it worked, then yes, that could help build up his confidence. But his numbers are showing that he is not there to put him in high leverage situations. Why not throw him in a situation, Randy, where maybe they have a big lead? We saw Helsley go into the game the other day, and I understand that Helsley is off limits and, the road situations where it's close or anything like that, like a 1-run game. They need to have the lead, something like that.
And this is what the skipper will tell you about yesterday. Okay. So
Okay.
you used 4 relievers, and so you had 4 left. Matz had thrown 2 2/3 the night before. He wasn't available. Matone had been utilized so much. You have to cool off that shoulder a little bit.
He's been used a lot.
And
Yeah.
then Helsley. So you had 2 guys that were unavailable, and Helsley, who you don't want to use until the bottom of an inning. So, and you've already used 3 relievers. You have 8. So you have Swanson,
Yeah.
or Fernandez.
Maybe was Swanson not the guy that Ollie was hoping that would be brought up?
We don't
And this
know.
is some sort of retaliation. Because I know that there's a lot of people too, when you're looking at this, is this Ollie trying to call out the roster construction?
I could see that happening. I don't know that he has. Well, he knows that Mo's not going to be here anymore. He's probably pretty sure that he's not going to get whacked this year. So why not try to, if he's going to lose on his terms? I have no problem with that. Although it might have happened with another manager that we had, and it led
Not
to
too long
philosophical
ago.
differences.
Yeah, he was already, but it didn't matter. He already knew he was going to get rid of him before that win streak.
So Brooke and I, as you know, we're kind of sunshine lollipops people. We're optimists. We're exciting. We're happening.
We're high on hopium.
High on hopium. Our friend Bernie Miklasz, evidently not very high on hopium these days.
Said a bunch of times, Mo knows best, right? I'll tell you another something that Mo knows in this, which is his lame quack season, right? Mo knows that a large percentage of the fan base can't stand Marmol. They don't really care about Marmol. They'd like to see Marmol go bye-bye.
Ever feel like a spectator in your own life with chronic migraine?
that's
15 or
commercial.
more
We don't want to
days?
see that.
They don't really care about Marmol. They'd like to see Marmol go bye-bye. And so therefore, the manager, whether we like it or not, some of us approve or not, I don't get to approve or disapprove anything. You can like or dislike whoever the hell you want. But he's an instant and easy target for those who do not like him at all. Fans, as I said, can choose to, quote, hate anyone they choose to. You can hate me if you want. That's all right. That's your right. Marmol is definitely the whip is out when it comes to Marmol. He's not going to get much slack. Afforded to him. It's just not. And you know why? First of all, Mo hired him, and he's viewed as the only reason why, that Marmol's a manager is because of Mo. But Marmol's also, in effect, the speaking representative face of the franchise. He's in the dugout the entire game. TV cameras always on him. He visits with the media 2 or even 3 times a day. He does the post game. He's on TV. And I always like how FanDuel Sports Network pulls away from that. Let's hear from the manager. Isn't that the whole point? But anyway, so he's on those post-game shows all the time, and he's the face of failure when the Cardinals spit up a game, as they did today. Mo gets to hide in his front office box. He also knows, of course, he knows that he is vehemently disliked. He has reference to that, but that's okay. He's just about out of here. So let Ollie take the beating, right? Heck, Mozeliak is the only reason why Ollie Marmol manages the Cardinals. So why should Mozeliak really have any empathy for the manager? He doesn't. The manager's lucky to have this job, and Mozeliak is the one who gave him the job. What a lucky man Ollie is that he had John Mozeliak to look out for him. That's it. Nothing else to say about that. And Mozeliak, besides, even if Mozeliak did care about any of this, it doesn't matter, because with each day he gets closer and closer to turning over this huge, messy, flaming, ramshackle junkyard of a ball club to Chaim Bloom. And then Chaim Bloom can decide what to do with the manager's job. Mozeliak, he's counting the days until he is free to go hang out in Napa Valley for maybe a month at a time, sampling vintage reds that he likes, okay?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well,
See,
that
that's
was
not
Bernie
sunshine
Mac.
lollipops.
No, that's not sunshine and lollipops, but he's not wrong. This is a lame duck season for John Mozeliak, but I get that roster construction is an issue here. I think that there's blame to go around it. Everybody weigh in on the chat too. Who do you think is to blame the most for this situation? At the end of the day, who is managing the bullpen?
Ollie.
And who put Ryan Fernandez in that situation yesterday?
Ollie.
So that's what I'm saying. And I do think that the blame also goes to John Mozeliak, because they spent a whopping $2 million this offseason, and they only picked up Phil Maton. So Matone,
for those
as Randy likes to say. But the blame goes all around. I feel like this might be some sort of pissing match between the two. I can say that, right?
Yes, you can.
Yeah,
we're
because
on the
not
internet. You
radio.
can say whatever
Yeah.
you want.
Doesn't it feel like it? It feels like maybe there's a little bit going on. We've seen that now, and that's an ongoing theme. So you can put that back on Mozeliak, where we have seen managers butt heads with him over the years for roster construction.
Right. BNSF fan David is on board with you. He said, Ollie potentially trying to stick it to Mo for the roster build by not pitching Swanson. Interesting concept. Is it possible we've seen this before with the Walker call up last year, which we are both well aware of? When Ollie said, Walker's going to get a chance to play every day. And then he was here for a week and they didn't play him and he sent him down.
But they even did that remember, Ollie did that with Fernandez last year. Remember, he would refuse to use Fernandez for the longest until finally he did use him, and it worked out well. And then Fernandez this season just does not have his stuff. By the way, Fernandez isn't the only one who is having issues right now in the bullpen.
No,
we've seen Jojo Romero struggle as well. And it seems like Kyle Leahy and Phil Maton are about the only reliable guys that you have. And Steven Matz, who is supposed to be back in your starting rotation, but is being a team player, which the Cardinals are really lucky. I feel like a lot of the players bail them out sometimes.
Oh, yeah. There's no doubt about it.
Wilson Contreras has bailed them out for a lot of the mishaps that we've talked about publicly that they don't like us to talk about. And also now you have Steven Matz, who's being a team player, even though they said that they were going to go the 6-man rotation. He is staying in the bullpen and is now one of your most reliable arms in there, and you need him. Yeah,
it's interesting that the guys who are getting so much time, Romero and Fernandez now with 11.42 earned run average, Romero at 7.27, but then the other guys, even King is at 3.09, Matt's at 1.86, Leahy at 1.72, Helsley at 2.25, and then Maton at 3.09. I got to get it right. Maton. So you've got a group of guys that are pitching well, but the problem is in a game like yesterday, and again, I would have liked to have seen what Swanson is capable of because he's only pitched in one game. You had two options there. You had Fernandez and Swanson. Well, you kind of have an idea at this point right now, and that was April 23rd, what Fernandez is going to do for you. So you could have done two things. You could have left Romero in, or you could have brought in, you did take door number 3, but you also had the opportunity to bring in Swanson.
And I understand that this season is a balance of seeing what guys have so that you can evaluate who to keep and who to move on from moving forward, and that you're trying to pick up some wins along the way. But in that situation yesterday, when the game is tied and you have a chance to win the series, and we're talking about how poorly they're playing on the road, why would you put in a reliever who has an ERA above 11 into that situation, whose stuff is, his confidence in his stuff is completely gone?
Okay, from a macro view, I won't disagree. But let's take a look at this from a micro view.
Okay.
Fernandez did strike out his other two hitters. What if he would have struck out the first two? Then all of a sudden, the confidence is back. You don't know what happens with number 3. He made a bad pitch. Pitchers have a tendency to make bad pitches. Maybe it was just a situation where the stuff was there, just not at the right time.
Yeah, clearly. I just think that if you're building up a guy's confidence, and we've seen with relievers specifically how quickly that can go away, and his numbers just do not support even prior to that. If it would have worked, fantastic.
Yeah, but
But the
neither do
numbers
Eli
don't
White's
support.
numbers. Eli White's career numbers don't
No,
support
his
that
numbers
either.
were terrible. Yeah, do you I was trying to remember what it was specifically, but I know that his numbers were terrible going into that situation.
Yeah, he is in 186 career games. He'd hit 11 home runs.
Yeah.
He shouldn't have hit a home run off of you.
He shouldn't have. But then that's how things are going with the Cardinals on the road.
Yeah.
That's how it's going. Keith Adams says Bernie was spot on. Mo built it. Ollie takes the beating. How many years have we complained about the pitching? And Mo's answer was another bandage. Sure, players perform. Get better players. And Keith, you're 100% right, because it has been on Mo for the roster construction. And behind the scenes, though, too, and I'm not trying to do pointing the fingers in every which direction, but organizationally, we heard them admit this past offseason they got away from development. So this is also just an organizational failure overall, correct? Because they got away from developing pitchers or developing players. They admitted that. And what had been the bread and butter that had worked for the Cardinals for so long? Of course, you had Dave Duncan.
Yeah, that helped.
That helped a lot. But I know that Dave Duncans don't grow on trees. So that helps a lot when you have somebody like him.
It'd be kind of gross.
That would be.
Hey, there's a Duncan tree, and you got a bunch of Dave Duncans hanging there.
Oh my God, the Cardinals should be right there waiting for a Dave Duncan to fall down to him.
Like Eckert's, right?
But they got away from development, and so then they had to go out and get some of those pitchers. And this is the position you're in currently.
And Brooke, back in my day, when starters gave you innings and you didn't need to use 4 relievers every night or 5, the Cardinals spent most of 1985 with a 9-man pitching staff. They've got 13 now. Your starters were Tudor, Andujar, Danny Cox, and then you had Bob Forsch, and then sometimes Kurt Kepshire. And sometimes Forsch would move into the bullpen. And you had, until you brought up Todd Worrell at the end, you had Kenny Daly still in town, Jeff Lottie, neighbor of Tiger Woods, former neighbor of Tiger Woods, Tiger and his daughter. I'm just saying. I didn't mean anything by it. And then you had Bill Campbell. And Bill Campbell was kind of your guy where he was your guy where you knew if he didn't pitch well, the game was out of hand. And he wasn't terrible. But my point is you need to build a bullpen now where every guy is capable. You can't have a mistake guy in your bullpen now because you don't get innings out of your starting rotation. You have to use 4 or 5 relievers a day. And then some days, like yesterday, with Maton and Matz not being available, you have guys that are unavailable. So with the way teams are set up now, you can't have a less than good reliever on your staff. You can't have that guy where, like Tony used to refer to jokingly, Brad Thompson as his 7-up guy, 7-up runs up, 7-up guy, 7 down. I guess Swanson is that guy right now, but you need to have all of your relief pitchers be able to pitch well.
I don't understand why they sent Roycroft down, but they're not going to send Fernandez down, and maybe they will, but Roycroft, you talked about how he's actually performing better. His numbers have actually improved because he was struggling here. And so then you send him down. Why not do the same for Fernandez?
Let me see. Does Fernandez have, I'm not sure he has options left.
Maybe that's a big reason why. So then they would have to cut ties with him.
Yeah. Which you could probably run him through. Let me double check though. He's 28. And, he was a Rule 5, right?
He was a Rule 5.
So if he's a Rule 5, he doesn't have any options left.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So maybe that's the big reason why, because they can't do that. But to Ollie's quote earlier with what he was saying about specifically, he has 3. According to Fangraphs, he has 3.
3 options.
So, hey, use one of those. That's what I'm saying is you got to use one of those, because I think that Fernandez has really just lost his stuff. And the bullpen, Ollie has no control of who's in it, who's out of it. Of course, when you're looking at roster construction, the Cardinals did not do enough for the bullpen this offseason. But then again, was that even their plan?
No.
And I think that there was a lot of other things that happened, Randy, too, where they weren't expecting Matthew Liberatore to actually do well as a starter. They probably promised him, hey, if you show us that you can do this during spring training, we'll actually give you that opportunity. I'm glad they gave Matthew Liberatore an opportunity. But I think there's been little things along the way where they were hoping maybe certain players would fail, and that has not panned out that way. Is that a fair assumption?
Yeah, I think so. And they expected that a guy like Fernandez would ascend, right? He became a high leverage guy last year, and I'm sure that they expected him when they didn't sign Maytown until the end of spring training, and they didn't have Kittredge anymore. They talked about how Fernandez was going to get more opportunities, like the opportunity that he was afforded yesterday. Had more of those high leverage opportunities that weren't necessarily closer opportunities. But remember, people were talking about, if they traded Ryan Helsley, that Fernandez would be one of the options.
That he
to close.
would be one of the guys. Well, and then you also picked up Phil Mayton, and my first thought was that he could eventually be the closer for the Cardinals in Helsley's absence. And that's what BNS fan David, I struggle with that too.
Yeah.
He said, with Helsley only available for safe situations, how quickly do they look at trading him if the team doesn't turn things around?
I don't know. I think that if they were going to move him, they probably would have by now. And right now, I haven't really looked closely at who might be needing a closer early in the season either. I don't know that any team is to that point yet where they're saying, "Oh, we got to go trade for Ryan Helsley and his $8 million salary."
Samuel House says Vonson was a Memphis closer, so he has shown that capability. Of course, it's always different when you get to the majors, but why not? If he's here, why not use him, especially when you have used Ryan Fernandez so much here lately? And you talk about the usage of Phil Mayton. Before yesterday, he pitched in 13 of 24 games, and so they've really used Phil Mayton a lot.
They have.
For a guy who had a late start into spring training, you really worry about that with pitchers and overusage of the bullpen. And there's not much Ollie can do in that situation, right? If there's only certain guys he can go to, Jojo Romero has had a decline. We're seeing Fernandez has had a decline. You had to send down Roycroft. There's a lot of guys that he cannot go to. He only has 5 arms in the pen right now that are, you could say, maybe are reliable.
So well, let's not count Fernandez. Obviously.
You have Leahy, Mayton, Helsley. Am I missing somebody that is kind of reliable? So maybe 3.
Well, John King's his ERA is in the mid 3s.
Yeah.
So you're okay with King.
Yeah. And Steven Matz, if you want to put Steven Matz in that equation.
He kind of is.
Yeah.
So there are guys there. And I guess my point is, and I think this is what Bernie was referencing too, you're kind of in an 0-win situation because you bring in Swanson, you say, oh man, you're on the road, you're in a hostile environment, you bring in Swanson, right? You've got 2 runners on. What are you doing to this kid in his second major league game? By the way, Whitey would have put him in. But then the other thing is Fernandez, and I'm sure that one of the things that Ollie thought about on the plane trip home was, okay, yeah, I'll get hammered for bringing Fernandez into the game rather than Swanson. But look what Fernandez did after he allowed the home run. So
he's getting runway.
Yeah, right. But you're almost, what can you do? And had he, let me check here. Fernandez this year has allowed how many home runs? That was the second one. So I just think that it's a product of a team that is not built to win. It's a team that's not prepared to win. And they told us that.
They did. Yeah. The roster construction is just not working out for the team right now. So for all the people who are weighing in, I think a lot of people are pointing towards Mo in that situation. I don't like that Ollie put Fernandez in that situation yesterday whatsoever, but roster construction wise, it is on the front office.
And it's been a problem for a long time. And hopefully that is
been
something that will change once they get a new president of baseball operations in place.
It's really sad that it's gotten to this point.
Yeah, it is. And you look at Dave Roberts, they've got 12 pitchers on the IL, I think, and he still can't make a mistake. Although they're right there with the Cubs now. The Cubs are 4-3 against the Dodgers this year.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah, it makes it fun for us.
Yeah, it makes
Cubs
it fun for everybody else.
Only played Western Division Western Division teams. They played the Rangers and the A's, and then the only other teams they played are Giants, Dodgers, Padres. They haven't played anybody from a Central or an Eastern division yet in
That's
first
weird.
25 games of the season. Isn't that weird?
Yeah. That is really weird.
So Romero, Fernandez, and King were your studs last year. I don't know about all of them.
Fernandez was, I think, more of a surprise. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
I think Fernandez was more of a surprise.
Last year?
Yeah.
Yeah, but they wanted to keep him here. That was another roster construction thing. They wanted to have him here last year. And
Brett says, I know the focus
Yeah.
of yesterday is on the pin, but it's hard to win a Major League Baseball game scoring 1 run. And that is 100% fair. That is very fair because I just heard what Rockio said in the background. Yeah, the pitcher on the mound, you should have been able to do some more damage against. The focus is a lot on the bullpen today, but you're 100% right. I mean, you can't win a game when you're not producing at the plate, as they did not do yesterday.
But you send your veteran guy out there and he gives you everything that he's got and everything that you would have expected. When you have a 1-0 lead, then you want to put it away. And that's one of the things you have to do if you're going to win games in baseball these days. You have to have a bullpen that closes things down, right?
Yeah, you really do. But offense, they're definitely catching more of a break today.
Yeah. And by the way, Bryce Elder did get his earned run average down to 5.57 with that game yesterday. Go Bryce.
Good for him.
Yeah.
Good for him. And now
he's a run better than he was last year.
That's a positive. You see, look, we said we were going to bring up some positives.
We have positives.
We didn't specify if it was also going to be other teams' positives. We probably should have put that out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's another positive for them.
And the Brewers are in town tomorrow. By the way, that's a Matrix Midwest game. And the Brewers are amazing. They brought up a kid, another WashU player by the name of Caleb Durbin, who's playing second base, hitting about 261 for them. And they're just getting really good work out of players that they bring up from their system. And there they are, just 2.5 games out of first. They're 13-12. And Pat Murphy is a guy who does develop young players, former college coach. So the Brewers are going to be a snootful.
Yes. Eric Sontag. Hey, Eric. He
Hi, Eric.
says, this season is what it is from a results perspective. My major concern, though, is Jordan Walker. Very worried he's not who we hope he is going to be.
Well, he's up to 790 at-bats, and he's 22 years old. Didn't have that first year because of COVID. Then he goes to Springfield in 2021, gets moved to the outfield. I don't, when we talk about proper development of players, I don't know that Jordan Walker has been given the best opportunity to become a polished baseball player.
I was going to wait for you to say runway, the proper runway to be able to do
the
that.
Proper runway.
No, because I feel like they have jerked him around a lot during his time here in the majors, where they said they were going to stick with him through adversity. They sent him right down as soon as adversity hit. And we've seen him also not even have the correct runway, ding, ding, ding,
Ding, ding, ding. Yep.
to be able to be a better outfielder. And this season, though, he's improved defensively. I think if you are looking for a positive, he has improved defensively. I also do like Brant Brown's approach, where he's not telling these guys, doesn't seem like he's a guy who's super focused on launch angle and hammering that home with guys, and that they just wanted to take that pressure off of Jordan Walker and see what happens.
And they're letting him do his thing. Now, granted, he is hitting 198.
He is.
His OPS, 545, I think now?
It's not pretty.
It's low. There used to be an adage in baseball that you wanted a minor league player to have about 2,500 at-bats. Nelson Cruz had over 3,000 plate appearances in the minors and became a pretty good player. It's hard to develop guys when they get less than 1,000 at-bats at the minor league level. And that's exactly what Jordan ran into. He actually had 1,200 at-bats. Before he made it to the majors, though, he had less than 1,000 because he's had enough in the last couple of years. So he didn't even get to 1,000 minor league at-bats before they brought him up. Then he's been up and down and up and down. This year, 86 at-bats, and he turns 23 on May 22nd. So I'm with you. I can understand, Eric, why you feel the way you do, because he's been here for 3 years, but this is still an extraordinarily young player. And I think he's one that needs the runway of a whole season.
He does. He does. You need to see what he's able to do there.
Are you concerned at all by the lack of power?
He hits the ball harder than anybody on this team.
Okay.
Right? He just doesn't hit it in the air. He hits like Jack Clark.
But it's not producing
Results
right now on the field.
Well, I thought we're about the process here.
Oh, we're not
asking
doing the
you.
process
We're not
thing.
we're not asking what I think about Jordan Walker. I'm asking you what you think about Jordan Walker, and if you think there, because I'm just saying you're right. There are issues with the development in the arc, and I'm not trying to like blame Jordan Walker for that. You shouldn't. But what we have with him now, is it still below expectations, and are you worried it's never going to exceed expectations because partially they've screwed up the development?
I think it's still too early to determine whether or not they've screwed him up. And the Cardinals over the year, well, I always go back to Keith Hernandez, who also came up when he was 20 years old. They gave him 41 plate appearances, sent him back, brought him up the next year, gave him 207 plate appearances, sent him back. In 1976, he finally got going, and he had an 803 OPS, I think, and that was at the age of 22. Sometimes players need more than just a couple of years to turn into really good players.
What would you say is probably, just off the top of the head, is the average of when we see players really ascend to their full potential? Wouldn't it be like 26?
27 to 32 is the prime year.
For positional players,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
I think that that's a really good call there. And some people pointing out Aaron Judge debuted in his 25th year.
Yep.
Jordan Walker's just 22 years old. So that is one thing where I can't get fully on board with. Same thing with Nolan Gorman, where we're wanting to say we've already know what we have with these guys. Too many times we've all seen where guys go to other organizations and they succeed. And so that's the thing that I can't give up on Jordan Walker, Nolan Gorman, any of that, because this is the season where you need to give them as much runway as possible. That's why I'm glad, and nothing against Michael Ciani. That's why I'm glad that Ciani was sent down, but you just need to even let Jordan Walker stay in a full game and not, sub in Ciani or somebody else to be a defensive replacement for him in late innings.
They need to simplify, and they have simplified it for him. Think of all the kind of like we've talked about in the past with other young hitters. All of the ears that have been in, or all of the voices that have been in the ear of Jordan Walker.
A lot.
The years.
Yeah.
And I just think he needs to, and finally he has a hitting coach who's the hitting coach who's saying, you be you. Give him an opportunity to actually grow up as a player a little bit.
And there are both good numbers and bad numbers if you dig into like the deep stuff. His hard hit percentage is actually growing 42%, 43%, 44% over the last 3 years. His exit velocity has sustained 89, 91, and now it's at 91 again. The one big number that jumps out that has really fallen off a cliff, his barrel percentage in 2023 was 7.5. It was 9.5 last year. It's 3.4. He only has barreled 2 balls out
You know what that tells me?
out of 400 pitches seen. So that's where he's struggling. He needs the
torpedo
bat.
Yeah.
There we go. We solved it.
Yeah.
Because his
them
bat
now,
speed-
Brant Brown.
His bat speed is 99th percentile in Major League Baseball. Let's give him that torpedo bat.
Yeah.
Get that barrel
And
percentage.
then send him down to fix that launch angle, will you?
I
by
would
the
be
way-
I would be curious, Rockio, if you could see like all the players if their
Launch
barrel percentage in general for this
The
team.
Cardinals?
Yeah.
I'll look that up. But by the way, Randy, to your point, launch angle, 10.2 degrees in 2023, 9.4 in 2024, 14.3 in 2025.
Here we
That
go.
launch angle's going up
There
Time for
we
some
go.
J-bombs.
Yeah. I'd be curious what the barrel rate is right now for the
for the whole Cardinals team.
How much better would he be, by the way, if when he walked into the clubhouse tomorrow, would he hit a home run if everybody, like Ollie, walks up and says, how you doing, J-Dub? I think one of the problems that
He
you
needs
have,
nicknames
he
for
needs
the
a better
players?
nickname.
All right, Brooke, I
yeah.
got it right here.
Yes.
Ivan Herrera leads the team at 31%. Nolan Gorman at 17%. Luke and Baker at 10%. Newt Bart 9.5%. Contreras at 9%. Brendan Donovan at 8.5%. Mason Wynn at 8%. Thomas Sajaci 7.4%. Pedro Pages 6.8%. Victor Scott 5%. Nolan Arenado 4%. Jordan Walker 3.4%.
Okay. We learn something new every day.
We do.
And that's definitely one of those that doesn't like it'll fluctuate pretty wildly over June and July once you actually get bigger numbers.
Another
But
good one
it is
from
interesting.
our new friend, BNSF fan David, who said, don't forget how bad Churio looked in the first half of last year before taking off. Not the same situation with Walker, but it could be the same results this year. Yep. You need to give people an opportunity to to get going. And Hockey Dad Don, thank you as always for tuning in and being a part of the show. He said you have to take the training wheels off of Walker at this point. Just give him a good push and let him ride, and he'll figure it out.
Yeah, that's the whole point of the season.
Yeah.
Except for the relievers. That's where I don't want to see them fail. I just feel like there is a difference between positional players and pitchers, because pitchers are just so much more finicky. And that's the part where I can't get fully on board for. Where if you see a guy struggling, I don't think it's a terrible thing or that you've lost confidence in them to send them to the minors.
And as Tony La Russa would say, you don't want to break him.
That's the thing. It feels like it's easier to break a pitcher. They're like like the eggs, the Fabergé eggs.
Do you think that, though, from their standpoint, they're more concerned about Michael McGreevy or Quinn Matthews than 100%. They are about Ryan Fernandez?
Yes. And so they want to make sure that they don't mess those guys up.
Yep. First rounder versus Rule 5.
Yeah. You just keep, there's a big difference.
Here we go. I don't understand why people like Randy Kay and Jim Hayes are on this Jordan Walker bandwagon. Let's face it, he's a bust. And after this year, they need to move on from him. Thank you, Tomcat 319. Appreciate that.
Do you have a comment for that one? Because I don't know what to say. That's interesting.
Unbelievable that I wanted just to bring a little bit of a full 360-degree view on Jordan Walker, and I invited the troll.
He very well might be a bust.
And he might be, but man, isn't that the point of this season, is to give guys a chance, an opportunity? Yep. And I understand. I think that part of this too is that everybody keeps crapping on nationally how bad this division is, right? Like how bad and how winnable this division is. But at the same time, that's not the point of the season. What is the point of this season? And how many times have they said that? To give guys
runway.
Yes.
Now, I have a question
and a chance
for you.
and an opportunity.
To both, and we're going to get to Jamal Mayers here in just 1 second. But both of you, do you recall Jordan Walker in his career got drafted in 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. This is 2025. Do you recall Jordan Walker ever spending 3 consecutive months in the major leagues?
No.
Has never spent 3 consecutive months.
Because it hasn't happened. Exactly. Yeah, it has not happened. And I understand being frustrated at the organization that we've gotten to this point, but man, you can't get mad at them giving players like Jordan Walker, Nolan Gorman an opportunity. I'm glad that they're doing that this season. That is the point. That is the point of this season, because it's the thing that we've been banging the drum about, is that they're ready to yank these guys as soon as they struggle here.
And then people get mad when they trade them and they wind up being good elsewhere. That's, just don't get mad. If he gets good when they trade him,
got to get gooder.
Don't get mad. Got to get gooder.
He's got to get gooder. That's the point of this season.
Turner Ward's philosophy.
Oh, where is he now?
R.I.P.? No.
Don't kill him off.
Oh, okay.
Why are you killing people off today?
I don't know. Hey, make sure that you have subscribed to our YouTube page and like this video. If you haven't already, go to sportshubstl.com. Sign up for the Hub newsletter sent to your inbox twice a week, and anytime St. Louis sports news breaks, you'll be the first to know about Sports Hub STL events and merchandise, get exclusive content and prize opportunities, and more. While you're on the site, check out all of the St. Louis sports content, including game recaps, programming highlights, sports news and opinion, gambling tips, and more. It's all on the website at sportshubstl.com. And Sports Hub STL is presented by DraftKings. The crown is yours. All right, let's see who shows up on our screen here. I always
you like it to be a surprise.
I like surprises,
even though it's already in the headline. There it is.
Mayers. Hey, brother, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
You got to get the volume up there.
Everything's great here. We appreciate it. Okay, so pro athletes generally are nocturnal creatures. Does it make any difference at all that the Blues are starting tonight at 8:30 rather than their normal 7:00 home start time?
Well, honestly, for me, I was a creature of habit and liked the routine, but an hour shouldn't really throw you off too much. It just pushes back your nap, pushes back your meal time, adjusts the pregame skate. I don't think it's that big of a deal. Just makes it more difficult to find something to eat after the game, but I'm sure they have prepared meals for them afterwards anyway.
Yeah,
that's always nice to see. All right, Jamal, game 3, obviously a huge one because the Jets have a 2-0 series lead going into this one tonight, but luckily it's back home here at Enterprise Center. You'll have the home crowd behind you. How much does that matter?
Oh, it's huge. Yeah, I think that obviously the team has had a lot of success at home, especially during their win streaks. So that's something they can lean on. I'm sure they're excited to get back to their home fans. I'm sure the fans are excited. It's really important that the energy in the building is at an ultimate high, and really, especially to start the game and the first period, that they get off to a good start. And I think that that's something they can ride, and most importantly, not think too far ahead. I think it's hard to not think about, oh my goodness, we're down 2-0. The most important thing is just to get out and get off to a good start and win the first period and stay in the moment and get that first victory at home, and then you start feeling good about yourself.
Jammer, one of the hallmarks of hockey, and especially playoff hockey, is getting to the net, taking away a goalie's eyes, getting your skates in the blue paint, whatever you want to say it is. And Jim Montgomery talked about that yesterday, how the Blues need to do a better job of going to the net. And he listed a bunch of guys. He listed Andrechuk and Cicerelli and Big Walt and Mellenby. Who on this team, though, could you foresee doing that?
Well, there's lots of guys. I got to look at the list, but Schenner's a guy that'll do it. Toropchenko. You've got to ask guys like Walker will certainly be there. Jake Neighbors is tremendous there. Sundqvist. They have a plethora of forwards and guys that are willing and have shown the ability to get there. For me, it boils down to a couple things. It's willingness and timing. So it doesn't matter how big you are. If you have good timing and you can get underneath and get to the net at the right time, you're avoiding the battle that ensues against bigger players. It becomes about timing, and also there's a willingness. Are you willing to get punched in the face? Are you willing to get pushed? Are you willing to fight to get there? So I think it's those two components that those guys that you mentioned that do it so well in the past, those are the elements that they have, either one or the other. They either have a willingness to get there and battle through it, or they have an exceptional timing when they get there.
And I think that's one of the reasons that they miss Holloway, at least from my point of view. Holloway, and he's not a 220-pounder, but he was one of those guys that, from my observation, was more than willing to go to the net.
Yeah, absolutely. I think every team's missing guys. I think that it would be a little bit not giving enough credit perhaps to the Jets and how well they played and the great season that they've had, that they're playing the best team in the NHL. And I know that everyone wanted them to, come home up 2-0 or tied 1-1. That's not the case. They're in both games. They're really close. There's moments within those games, each of those games where they didn't take advantage of their opportunities, unfortunately. But it's not going to be easy. And I think that, they're a team in the Jets that defends extremely well. They've got a top line. What's most concerning for me is that you look, and a lot of times when you're, just so you guys are aware, when you prepare for playoffs, and I'm sure it stayed the same, when you go over, and I'm sure they've done this 2 or 3 days before the series even started. What you do is you go through both lineups. You'll go through the lineup of the Jets, and you'll get an understanding of who you're going to end up matching up against. And as a third or fourth line guy, I knew who I was going to match up against. So I knew I had to be better than the other team's third or fourth line. And if you do that analysis with this group, I think it's fair to say that the top line for the Jets has outperformed Thomas's line. And if that stays the same, the Blues are not winning this series. So the simple numbers, and a lot of times the numbers don't really tell the whole story, but my hockey eye sees it as well. You can't have, obviously, Perfetti and Scheifele's line, not Perfetti, Scheifele's line with Connor and Iafallo out-duo Thomas's line. And, Thomas's line, Thomas is -4, Parenko -4, Buchnevich -3, Fowler -4. If that does, and those other guys on the other side are +4, +4, +3. If that doesn't change, nothing else will matter as this series goes forward. So Thomas's line, as simple as put, has to outplay at home. And obviously Monty's going to get the matchup that he desires, but I'm assuming he'll want to go head to head. But if that trend continues, the Blues don't have a chance. Thomas line has to be better than the Scheifele line.
Jamal, going into this game tonight, we saw in game 2 that Monty did change things up a little bit with the Lions, added Tucker in there too into the game. And it looks like, just based off of practice yesterday, that Texier will also get an opportunity on the third line. So Joseph is the odd man out in that one. What do you think about some of those changes? Is there other changes that you would do going into game 3 tonight for the Blues?
Well, Monty certainly has a good pulse, and that's one of his tremendous skills as a coach, is understanding, those little adjustments that you need to make. I don't mind the 11-7. What I like about it is your better players get to play more. The concern is that perhaps Parayko played a little bit too much from coming back in that first game, and you need to perhaps insulate him a little bit better. Perhaps you change a little, who he's matched up against, and give him a little bit of relief in that regard, because it's going to take some time. He's jumping out from not playing for 2 months to jumping into playoffs is certainly not easy, especially when you're going against the other team's top pairing. So I think getting the correct matchup defense-wise will be very important. I think that you're going to need a little bit more from your second and third lines, especially if Thomas's line has been neutralized for the most part. And I think that if those things adjust and you're able to get contributions up and down the lineup, I'm sure Monty's going to have the ability to make those changes. But I do like the 11-7. I think anytime you're able to lean on your better players and play those forwards a little bit more, it's more conducive to how you're playing. It kind of goes against conventional logic because they were a tremendous 4-line team, especially during that winning streak. But, without Holloway, I think that, that might be the route to go. And you can't fault it. It gives guys an opportunity to play a little bit more that are your top 6 guys.
Hey, Jammer, I want to preface this by saying we don't know what's going on with Robert Thomas, but he hasn't been practicing. When you get to this time of year and everybody else is practicing, but one guy isn't, what do you take away from that?
Well, I think that there's probably bumps and bruises. I think that, I don't read too much into it. I think this time of the year for him, he's such a tremendous player that if he's in the lineup, even at 85, 90%, it's better than the entire lineup. So everybody's banged up at this time of the year. That's what the first round usually happens. It's a war of attrition and who can survive those bumps and bruises. But, I don't put too much stock in it. If he's in the lineup and he's ready to go, that means you're going to get, we'll probably find out what he's been bothered with, but you'd love to see him 100%, certainly. But I would agree with you that he's probably not 100%, but he's so darn good that even him at 85 is better than most.
And the good news is that Monty's saying yesterday that Robert Thomas will be available for game 3, and he is out on the ice today. So that is always a positive update for Robert Thomas.
Can I ask Jammer one question?
Yeah.
In your playoff history, when you got to the playoffs, were you ever 100%, even one time?
I think after about game 8, I was never at 100% the rest of the year. So, and right now I'm about 75%. My neck is killing me. I got to get a cortisone shot. But, that's a great point. I don't think anybody's at 100%. I mean, I think the game has changed certainly, and I love the new rules when they came in and 04, and they kind of eliminated the hook and holding. They took away the headshots. Like the game, I'm not going to sound like an old fart, but the game has certainly changed in that regard. But I think it's not uncommon for a lot of these guys to be playing with something or through something. So that's what makes them so special. That's what makes the playoffs so special, is that that it'll come out when it's all said and done, that perhaps there's a few more guys than just Thomas that are playing with some ailment or some bumps and bruises along the way.
I was going to say, there's always a debate that will never be settled about which athletes are the toughest out of all the professional sports. And I think covering hockey, and you're definitely going to be biased in this probably too, but I feel like hockey has to be number one, just because when you hear the injury reports at the end of the season, once everything is completely done, you're like, they were playing through what? I even think about during the Stanley Cup playoffs, whenever Vince Dunn came back with a broken jaw. I mean, it's just insane how tough hockey players are.
Well, Brooke, thank you for giving me the platform to explain to you that it's not even a debate of what sport is tougher. It is no question it's hockey. And I'll give you my analysis is this. Hockey, we play 82 games. Now, is football more violent? Are the collisions more intense? Absolutely. But if you wanted to put them on an equal scale, football would have to play 35 games to make it equal. And so, yes, football, absolutely, but not playing 17 games. They play once a week, and then they have an off week. It's not even close. So 82 games, the violence of the contact, especially in the playoffs, the fact that if they got lost a tooth, several of our guys in our game get stitches and they miss a shift or two. No offense, those guys would not be back out there in the same game. They would be done for the night. And I'll stick by that. It's not even close. It's hockey's the toughest players in any sport.
And Jammer, you guys are running into boards, and a lot of the times the glass it doesn't move very well.
Oh.
Football players, at least they hit the ground, but they aren't getting run into boards and having their shoulders hit the boards all the time either.
That's a good point. And I think that, yeah, there's no question. Those guys are big. They're bigger. They're faster, perhaps. But, we get going about 23, 24, some of the hockey players miles an hour. So the collisions certainly aren't probably as intense, but you're playing 3 or 4 times a week versus once a week. I think it makes a difference.
Yeah, there's been a lot of big hits in this series, too, that we talked about the physicality of it. What did you think of that hit on Kyrou from Stanley?
Massive hit. I think a lot of people were questioning why there wasn't a response. I'll tell you why there wasn't a response. It's the playoffs. And the best response you can give is to do the same to their better players. That would be the message for me as a player on that bench is telling their bench, like one of their better players are going to get it. And I think that if the natural reaction for all of us is to say, well, someone should have went after Stanley. I don't think you can in that instance. And the reason is that you end up taking an instigating penalty. Now you're on the penalty kill. You're actually hurting your team. The better response, in my opinion, is hitting their better players cleanly and giving that type of response. So most importantly, I thought it showed a tremendous amount of courage by Kyrou to get up and make it to the bench and not let them know how much it hurt. I think that he was clearly in some discomfort, but for me, that's a level of toughness as well to stay in the game and continue to play. And so he should be commended for that. And I think that guys in the team recognize that. And it definitely was a massive hit. And it's time for some of us or some of the Blues guys to do the same to their better players.
All right. If we are to start the post-game show tonight on Sports Hub STL at about 11:15 and the Blues have won, they will have won because of blank.
Because Benner played exceptionally well and outplayed Hellebuck, and because Thomas's line outperformed, outdueled Scheifele line. If those 2 factors happen, notwithstanding special teams, obviously, that are important, I think the energy will be at an ultimate high. I think that if they're able to have those 2 things happen, the Blues end up, getting the first victory of the series.
Okay, I got one more. And I think the statute of limitations is passed here. You guys took a lot of grief in 2000 for dyeing your hair blonde. Did that have any effect at all on that series?
No, let me tell you a quick story about that. So there was this little salon there off of Hanley. And as a good teammate, I don't have any hair. So I thought, okay, I'll go with these guys. I forget, there was like 6 or 7 guys, Craig Conroy, Mark Bergevin, a few others that were decided they're going to dye their hair. So I'm sitting there and the lady's like, okay, well, I can stripe your eyebrows. And they're like, yeah, you're doing that. I'm like, I'm not doing that. It's ridiculous. They're like, no, you're doing that. You got to do something. So I want to be a good teammate. So I'm like, all right, fine, I'll do it. As ridiculous as it sounds. So she does it. And then, the fact is everybody thinks that I got too much trouble on the ice about it. Well, we play first game, second game. We get on the plane. As we're on the plane, Jimmy Mayer, director of security, comes back to the plane and says, hey, Jammer, like there's a Mexican type of gang in San Jose in California, and they shave their eyebrows like your eyebrows look, and you're not going to be able to leave the hotel to do anything. And I'm like, are you kidding me? We're here for 5 days. Like, I can't. So I said to a couple of guys, you got to come with me. I'm going to go to the little Walgreens or whatever down the street. So I had to get some Grecian formula to like dye it back, or else I was going to be stuck in a hotel for 5 days if I didn't do that. So it wasn't that we didn't start well. It wasn't that I got too much grief. It's because it was for my safety of my life that I had to go dye them back to the regular color. But that's the whole story. It had nothing to do with it. I would like to think that perhaps a puck going off the back of Roman Turek had more to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that one of our defense threw a puck into the net, not going to name who, Bergie, maybe had a little bit more to do with it. A little bit of bad luck, but those things happen.
Yeah, great stuff. Jammer, it's always great to talk to you. Thank you, sir. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, appreciate it.
See you.
Thank you.
That's Jamal Mayers. He's fantastic.
That is so funny. What a great behind the scenes story there.
Oh, and
people were mad about that.
They really took it seriously. Come on, it's that doesn't affect whether you win or lose a playoff series.
Oh, come on. Yeah, it does, Randy. You know.
Well, if they would have won, it would have been because of it, right?
Yes, but since it didn't, then you have to blame that.
So this is amazing. The reason that I asked the question is because the anniversary of the Game 7 loss, and the Blues won the President's Trophy, lost to the Sharks in 7. Anniversary of that loss is tomorrow, 25 years tomorrow that they
Wow.
lost the finale to San Jose. Mark Bergevin did throw a puck into his own net in the Saturday afternoon game during the NFL draft, as a matter of fact, in
Ooh.
2000.
Yes.
Yeah, it was not
It's not pretty.
It was mildly disappointing.
Mildly.
Yeah.
Just mildly.
So you guys might have noticed that I was I do this sometimes. I use my phone during the show, but here's what I was doing. I was making a bet for you on DraftKings Pick 6 because baseball season is officially underway, and it's time to step up to the plate with DraftKings Pick 6. Think of DraftKings Pick 6 as your fastball right down the middle. It's the easiest way to play for cash and take a shot at a big win. Just select 2 or more players and choose if they'll have more or less of a stat. Pick 6 is available right here in Missouri. It's also available in Georgia, in Texas, in California, and in many more states. And you can cash in your baseball knowledge with new players getting $50 in Pick 6 credits instantly on just a $5 entry when you use that promo code that you see right there, STL Sports. Use that promo code STL Sports. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app, and you'll be able to do something like I just did. I have a couple that I'm ready for. Garrett Crochet and the Red Sox start at 12:35. I've got him to have more than 7.5 strikeouts against Seattle. And I've got Willy Adames of the Giants going against Milwaukee. Getaway day for the Brewers. I've got Adames to have more than 1.5 hits and runs and RBIs combined.
Ooh, okay.
So if I get that, I am going to win with my $10 bet, $27
Nice.
through DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
All right.
There's a little side conversation
stuff going on here. This is awesome.
There is consternation in the chat, and we wanted to address it before we get into a little bit of NFL draft coverage because
it's just a kerfuffle at the moment.
It's a kerfuffle, but it's still an issue.
What happens if it gets really big?
Ooh, then it's a brouhaha.
There you go.
There we go. Mary Lycan says Walker was ruined by the media and Cardinals brass. I just want to bring up a little quote for you, Mary. And I do appreciate the chats that are coming in. So please come them in. We like these conversations because they're helpful. It helps us all grow and learn from situations. But John Mozeliak is the one who had stated in the past that he referred to Walker as a best prospect since the era of Pujols and Tavares.
And then he changed it to best since Pujols. He took it upon himself to say he's our best prospect since Pujols. I think that was after he got rolling in 21. So he went from best prospect during the pandemic. Remember, he said on our and they had him down at the minor league camp in Springfield, and Mo said he's our best prospect since Pujols and Tavares. And then they got him playing, and he said he's our best prospect since Albert Pujols. I do not recall, Brooke, and maybe you. I have not seen any of the work that John Mozeliak has done as a columnist, as a talk show host. I don't know what part of the media he's in.
I don't either. He has the Mo Show.
Yeah,
It
the
could
Mo
have been
Show.
The Mo Show. The Mo Show. Maybe that's what it is.
Oh, you want a little inside baseball?
What?
He's being recruited by MLB Network.
Is he really?
Mhm, yeah.
John Mozeliak is going to do that, but isn't he?
Well, he's being recruited. I don't know if he's going to do it.
But he's going to stay within the organization, isn't he?
But
I
he
thought
can
that
do
was the
stuff.
plan.
He can do stuff.
So what will he be
Albert's in
doing?
an organization and doing stuff, right?
Okay, that'll be something.
Yeah,
that will be okay.
something.
There you go, John
So,
Mozeliak starting his media career. You
no.
heard it here on Sports Hub STL.
I would love, well, and maybe we do. Maybe we just don't appreciate the level of power that we enjoy.
Us media members, that
Yes,
we are the ones. I feel like we even went back about 20 minutes ago. We were just saying that they need to lay off Jordan Walker and that he needs a chance to just do whatever he can.
Mhm.
I don't know how us as media members exactly would have done anything to ruin Jordan Walker. We're not the ones who said call him up and then send him back down several different times. We're not the ones who said, hey, how about now making him an outfielder after we trade Harrison Bader?
That was not a great day.
No, that was not.
I remember asking Mo right after he had his little press conference it was who did the Cardinals get for Bader? It was Jordan Montgomery.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to Mo after all the other microphones are gone, I said, safe to say that Walker is going to move to the outfield? And he said, yeah, he'll play some left and right. And then he's walking down the tunnel. I'm walking back out to the field and he says, Randy, center too. So they were planning on playing him in all three outfield positions.
Oh, okay. There
Yeah.
you go.
Yeah. And you know what? Wouldn't you feel like if somebody told me as a young broadcaster, you are the best broadcaster that we've had since Bob Costas? That'd make me feel great. You know?
That'd be fantastic.
Yeah, wouldn't that make you feel wonderful?
Yeah.
So
They didn't say that to you when you
Nope.
went over to KMOX?
Nope,
They
nope.
didn't say that to you?
I never heard it. If they did. So I would have preferred to be thought of as the next great thing. I don't know why Jordan Walker wouldn't want to be thought of as that.
Well, and also when you're a first round pick, there's going to be, or a first round pick, you're going to have a lot more media coverage
You are.
surrounding
Yeah.
you.
What, Matthew?
I wonder why somebody wouldn't in this market be like, maybe don't put me and Pujols in the same sentence. Maybe
Come on.
because it's going to create the most. I mean, JD, the amount of the different scenarios I can think of with different players who just got beaten down by this fan base, Which, I mean, we really got to center on one guy. But
Who?
when they do, like JD Drew is a great example.
JD
of
Drew
a
was
fan base
totally oblivious.
to
Totally.
the fans.
He had no idea.
And I think that's even,
Isn't that the
honestly,
best way to go about it,
That
though?
doesn't surprise me, but that doesn't also change that every fan in St. Louis for a couple of years there was just irrational about
Yeah.
one player. Universally, it felt like.
Yeah. Well, it's the
And I
problem.
feel like we're getting this because we're getting comments like this. Walker doesn't have it. And people are agreeing with that statement. And I just don't know how.
What is it?
Apparently, well, I asked Mary.
I think I think he doesn't think that he's a superstar.
It is unwavering confidence and an unrelenting mentality of determination. It is what makes the greats great. And here's my thing. Even if he doesn't want to be in the same sentence, that's intelligent, not a lack of confidence. And my comment in the chat was, no one right now, no one in this room, no one in the chat, probably, I don't even know if the coaches or teammates are qualified to judge whether or not Jordan Walker has enough confidence. I don't know if there anybody in the world other than Jordan is qualified to judge that. Certainly not anyone currently right now on this show.
No. And if he would say, hey, I'm going to be fine, then people would go bananas. You know, if he does express that unwavering confidence and say, hey, I'm hit 198, but I'm not worried about it. I'm good.
Mason Wynn basically did that
Yeah.
to start the season, right? When he was,
Yeah.
was it or was that spring training where he was struggling a little bit, but Mason Wynn made comments about he knew that he would get back on track. Same thing with Wilson Contreras. I don't think that Jordan Walker lacks confidence. He's 22 years old. I just don't believe, because as you mentioned earlier, as we've seen, he hasn't even had a fair shot in a 3-month stretch to just do his thing.
No. And we can point this out again if you weren't listening before. At this stage of Aaron Judge's career in the minors, at this stage of Yordan Alvarez's career in the minors, at this stage of Keith Hernandez's career, he'd been sent to the minors. Jack Clark's career, he got off to a slow start. Look at and Jack, they stuck with him. They didn't send him down when he faced adversity, and he wound up turning into a really good player.
In today's day and age, when there's more than anything, like you can literally go look at the results of every single swing of the bat by Jordan Walker, and yet people want to look at me and say, "Yeah, but he just doesn't have it." I refuse to have that conversation because it's nebulous, There's no parameters. We're not using a single fact to have this discussion. If we're having a discussion about whether or not if a player has it or if they have enough confidence, unless we're talking about a quote directly where a player has been quoted as saying, I'm having a confidence problem.
Yeah,
right
confidence.
now.
Crazy. It's a crisis of confidence.
It's
Name that president.
crisis of confidence speech
It's a crisis of confidence.
Was it JFK?
No.
Crisis of confidence is why like I know what you're talking about. And I can't. Was it Clinton?
No.
The fact that you're getting a southern
Want a hint? There you go. That's the
Bush.
start.
It was a Bush,
Huh?
right?
Yeah.
Peanut farmer Jimmy Carter.
Oh.
Okay, I was like,
when you said
you
Southern,
kept-
I was like, maybe
I was like,
a
Southern, the funny
Bush.
thing is you said Southern draw, and I think 3 Democrats. And it was I was like, is it Clinton,
It was-
Kennedy, or
So
Carter?
I think that they actually had that speech, that clip
It was his
from
with a
Carter
Southern
in the
accent.
movie Miracle.
Kennedy.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, when you said Southern accent, I think of the Bushes immediately.
Oh yeah.
Old Texas guys.
I thought Texas wasn't the South.
It is. It's just that they don't have a Zaxby's.
Oh,
Fool,
okay.
fool me once,
Shame on me.
fool
Shame
me
on-
twice. I won't get fooled again.
He had so many great quotes, didn't he? Didn't he have so many great quotes?
great,
And
yeah.
now he paints in his spare time.
Strategery is
That's one of the
Will
all-time
Ferrell
best.
on SNL just saying.
I think also one of my other
burned into my
favorite
brain.
moments of him is when he dodged the shoe.
Oh, that was classic.
That
Yeah.
was so good.
That
And he
was
was
good.
just like
You
laughing.
showed me
You
like-
know what my
something.
favorite thing about that is that guy is still alive.
The shoe
Really?
guy?
The guy who threw the shoes at Bush. He didn't like they didn't disappear him or anything.
Hmm.
I like the fact that guy's still around. I think he tweets like every year on the anniversary and talks about it.
About why what was his reason? I don't even remember what his reason was.
I mean, I don't
just
think he was
wanted
too
to?
happy about a puppet government being placed into his country.
So,
Mm.
Bill Downton, Wynn and Scott, same
Big
age. What about all the other teams playing the guys that have less than 1 year in the minors? Bill, I would suggest that Matthew and I are not identical. That Brooke and I, we don't have identical personalities or approaches. I think it's kind of, I won't say irresponsible, foolish maybe though, to think that every single baseball player is the same. It just doesn't work that way. Unfortunately, you'd like to think that, okay, this is a conveyor belt, bless you. And we've just got cookie cutters and every single player is the same. Some players come from different backgrounds, grow up in a different way, have different physical attributes, and develop in different ways. So to compare, for example, Jordan Walker to, I just said Jack Clark, completely different situations. All right, the different times and places. Even if we go with right now, Jackson Churio. Do you think Jackson Churio had the same upbringing and the same approach to life as Jordan Walker? I doubt it. Here's a good one, and I've brought this up before. A guy like Ronald Acuna. Let's compare Ronald Acuna to who is a recent top draft choice in Major League Baseball, good or bad. Wilson, give us a recent top draft hitter.
Jackson Holiday.
Jackson Holiday. There you go. So, do you think that Ronald Acuna had the same access to TrackMan and individual coaching and computers that Jackson Holiday had?
No. Or like a giant barn, like dedicated to helping baseball.
So
baseball
how
careers.
can we compare Jackson Churio to Jordan Walker, whose parents, one went to MIT, one went to Harvard. They're brilliant. He got accepted to Duke. Not saying that Ronald Acuna would not have, but I just don't think that you can expect players to all be exactly the same and say, okay, well, this guy did this at this age, so this guy is going to do the exact same thing at the exact same age. That would make baseball kind of boring.
It would make baseball boring. And it's also not fair whatsoever. We've also talked about how the Brewers just keep finding a way. They're the new standard when you're looking at this division. The Brewers keep finding a way. And I think that has a lot to do with their organizational approach. Jordan Walker has already experienced how many different organizational approaches at this point in his young career?
Look at the number of hitting coaches.
The number of hitting. Did he start? So he was drafted in 2020. So who was Jeff Albert still Or was he gone by then?
I think the high level curriculum was still in place there.
And so
Pretty sure.
Jeff Albert was allowed to, anytime they do bring in a hitting coach, they typically allow them to kind of have a full organizational approach.
Mhm.
And Jeff Albert really did.
did.
He really did behind the scenes. It wasn't just the majors he was focused on. His hitting approach and philosophy went down throughout the entire organization. He was allowed to do that. That's why it was a big loss in their eyes when they lost Jeff Albert and he decided to leave the organization. Then you bring in Turner Ward. Now you have Brant Brown. And think about how the organization has even had different messaging for Jordan Walker throughout the years. That's different than what Jackson Churio has experienced with the Brewers.
And like last year when they did the photo shoot for the City Connect uniforms, he was the centerpiece.
Oh, yeah.
And then they sent him down and had to change, but they want him to be the face of the franchise too. This is all our real American intelligence. Jordan Walker is George Hendrick 2.0, and I would be fine with that. I would too. I think that hopefully he'll speak to the media more than George did. George was a great guy, though. As an usher, George was a great guy. Love George Hendrick.
He just didn't like speaking to the media.
No, but he was the best power hitter on that team in the 80s. And if he would have played in a different ballpark, would have had much better power numbers. Yeah, I would be fine with that too if Walker would wind up being like George.
Space says, just using the season, Mason Wynn struggles related to lower back pain, Contreras related to stance. Walker swings at everything down and away. Sometimes it's an injury, others a bad habit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We did talk about that earlier this week about Jordan Walker looked like he was going back to some of his bad habits at the plate.
We saw that yesterday.
Yeah.
Especially with that last at bat. No doubt. He has to get back to what he was at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, and to that point on Walker, he's raised his batting average against fastballs from last year by 60 points or 50 points from 200 to 250. He's raised his batting average against off-speed pitches from 278 to 364. But his batting average against breaking pitches has dropped from 182 to 037.
Yeah, the slider, the down and away slider seems to be affecting him negatively.
Yeah.
So we do not have Cards Hub 365 post game today, but we always have Cards Hub 365. You know what it means with Cards Hub 365, Brooke?
What does it mean?
365 days a year.
Oh my gosh, no way.
That's what it means. Yeah, Cards Hub 365. You'll hear it here, right here, and see it on Sports Hub STL. It's going to be awesome. And you'll be able to learn everything you need to know about the Cardinals, and you can do so right here at Sports Hub STL.
I thought it was like they were betting on the over-under for like the Cardinals team OBP this year.
365. Oh. What are you going to bet?
I'm going to go with over, I guess.
Yeah.
I hope.
Deep voice dude. What does Cards Hub 365 do on February 29th when we have 366 days? It's Wilson's through February 29th.
We let Joe Roderick actually sleep for a day.
Oh, good.
He deserves it.
He sure does.
Wilson's also like full Astros and Houston today. So you're wearing Houston
Brian
Texans.
Cushing, I think, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a little worried that Wilson's gonna hit himself or one of us with a helmet, much like Brian Cushing would do on the sidelines. We're a little roid rage from Wilson today.
A little. What's going on? What's going on, Wilson? Why is there a roid rage?
Brian Cushing.
Oh, I just didn't know if there was also something else. You're just channeling him right
just
now.
Osmosis from Brian Cushing took so much anabolic fluid into his body that his jerseys that you buy years later still kind of have a contact high of roid rage.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nice.
So have you ever seen the clip of him splitting his head open because he took his helmet off and he slammed his helmet against his forehead?
Yeah.
And he splits his forehead open. He's a psychopath.
Yeah.
That's before we knew what CTE would do.
I think it's time for the Grim Report.
So it will be an overarching / Grim Report because we're getting towards the tail end of the show here. But it is NFL Draft Day. Happy NFL Draft Day for everybody. If there is a team.
Topic in the draft.
Titans will have the number one pick of the draft.
We're number one.
Don't ask us how we got there because it was really painful and embarrassing.
Any thoughts on picking
I don't want to hear anything from you, Wilson, over there in your Texans jersey.
Picking a quarterback in a season where people are routinely ranking the quarterback like 15th on their big board.
I don't feel great about it whatsoever, honestly. Now, and that's nothing against Cam Ward, but here's another thing that always just drives me bonkers when it comes to the Titans is when I start to see the articles that come out when they're about to draft a quarterback of the next heir to McNair. And I'm like, we're not doing this. We're not doing the comparison of Steve McNair to all the different quarterbacks. They have not had, if you guys are sadly familiar with the Titans history like I am, they don't do a great job whenever they pick a quarterback number 1 overall.
Come on,
And
Brooke. What about Jake Locker?
Skill positions, mainly wide receivers, go really great for you guys.
No.
What about Vince Young?
No. That's why that last GM got fired. What
about Vince Young?
He was a
won
great
Offensive
college
Rookie of the
quarterback.
Year.
Yeah. And then things really went sour there with Vince Young. Yeah, things have
What
not gone
about Will
well.
Levis?
What about, that didn't go well. Well, he wasn't the top draft pick.
Oh, what about Marcus Mariota?
I was there. So I was in Nashville when they picked him up. And I remember with Marcus Mariota, when he said he had never lost, like in his entire life, had never lost a game. I was like, because you have to be able to lose some. He said even in Pee Wee football, he had never lost before. And now you've seen where his career has gone.
He was the backup in Washington last year, right?
Yeah. And he did an interview recently where he was talking about some stuff with Arthur Smith that I found interesting. That's another conversation for another day, but I do not feel great about it. Now, I do like what I'm hearing about Cam Ward, but there is concerns there because this is not a great quarterback draft whatsoever.
Well,
it's not.
Think about how convenient it is. I know it's not the actual school, but you get Cam Ward, you want to celebrate Cam Ward, you can literally just go down the road and buy an Incarnate Word swag, because that's where he started in his college career with completely different school than the word here. But still, you're here in St. Louis, Brooke, you get some convenient Cam Ward stuff.
So Brooke is a voracious consumer of information and content. So knowing what you know, and with that history of quarterbacks, if you were in charge of the Titans draft tonight, of taking the number 1 pick, what would you do?
I don't know. I don't know if you can pass up a generational talent. And that's something that the new GM had actually said. I mean, that's Travis Hunter, isn't it? That's Travis Hunter. And that's the thing.
But you're about to do that.
But here's the thing is that was confusing to me is that the GM, so if you guys didn't realize everything that was going on behind the scenes, terrible GM, they got I felt like Rand didn't get the proper runway. So nothing against him, but prior to him, Jim Robinson had made a lot of mistakes that led up to this. And Rand had to deal with that. They got rid of Rand. Then they now brought in this new guy. And he had said that, if there's a generational talent, like once in a lifetime guy coming in, that we're not going to pass on that. And then they started courting Cam Ward. They didn't even do proper interviews with some of the other guys. That's the stuff that concerns me.
Including Sanders, right?
Yeah, including Sanders. And that's another discussion, too, of if you guys buy into some of these stories that we see in the NFL draft that start to come out, because we're seeing a lot of stuff come out about Shedeur, about him being a diva and that he hasn't been great in interviews. Do you buy into that stuff?
No. And I know that this is the misinformation season. And I am completely on board with anonymous sources. I think they're necessary. They're a necessary part of reporting. But this to me is irresponsible when somebody will not attach their name to a player like this person, this coach or GM is doing, because they're affecting a young man's livelihood, calling him a diva and saying that he's got bad body language and that he was bad in the interviews. I think this is one where the writer should say, you know what?
Unless you want to put your name to it, I'm not putting the
I'm
statement out there.
And I agree, because like the fun ones right now are the ones where it's like Mason Graham might fall. No one's talking about it anymore. Walter Nolan's going to be maybe the biggest riser, who's the defensive lineman out of Ole Miss. Like those anonymous reports where it's the guys in the room just leaking it to people to have some conversation. That stuff is why this is fun. But when you cross into the Laramie Tunsil level stuff, this kind of stuff where you're attacking, again, things that you cannot grade on tape, that's where it gets dirty.
Yeah. So some of the quotes that have come out recently, I also start to question it too, because it feels like it's purposeful. And sometimes teams will do that, right? Where maybe they do want a certain guy and they put these stories out there to put question marks into other GMs' heads and executives' heads. But some of the stories that have been coming out about Shedeur that nobody's wanting to attach their name to, a coach recently told the NFL Network that he was the worst formal interview I've ever been in my life. Okay. Then we've also heard from another longtime, supposedly AFC executive, saying that he is so entitled, he takes unnecessary sacks, he never plays on time, he has horrible body language, he blames teammates.
And then adds, but the biggest thing is he's not that good. You can say that. He's not that good. But don't, or when you attach your name to this, what made the interview bad?
It makes me think of Luther Burden. And remember,
Mhm.
there was somebody that didn't attach their name was crapping on Luther Burden, saying that he was not a
diva.
great
Called him a
interview,
diva.
calling him a diva.
Was that the Todd McShay that
It
said
was.
that?
It
Yeah.
was. Okay, so that name was
Also-
actually attached to
Yeah.
that one.
And he's also he's also ripped the other receiver, the Tetarola
Tutorial maybe mail
Tutorial. Yeah, he ripped him.
I said the first name wrong. Sorry.
Yeah.
I some of this stuff's crazy because if you like take every bullet point from that Shedeur Sanders criticism and you put it in a vacuum, you can say it about so many prospects, but you put them all together and it sounds damning. Like he blames his teammates when he makes mistakes. Find me a quarterback who throws an interception and doesn't
Right.
blame the receiver every once in a while. Or to Shadeur's point, who's getting hit
Mhm.
every single play and at one point doesn't get in his offensive lineman's face because he wasn't able to get a clean pocket. That is such a dumb criticism for a college player, especially in today's day and age, in my opinion, just because every single moment's on film. So you're always going to see it when Shedeur Sanders is yelling at somebody. And that stuff happens all the time. Peyton Manning runs over and curses out Jeff Saturday. Like that's what leaders do, if anything, when the game's at its highest moment. Julian Edelman always talks about how Tom is cool and calm until the moments where Tom Brady was no longer cool and calm, and then he would be in your face for every moment.
Right,
Leader.
right. Now, here's one other take on these rips from NFL personnel people. Deion Sanders knows NFL personnel people. Is it possible that Deion Sanders, in his desire to get Shedeur to the place that he wants him, would go tell these other people or tell certain people that he likes, hey, we don't want him to go to the Giants or whatever team. Can you rip him for us?
That could be a possibility.
Yeah.
We know that they don't mind the media adversity.
They seem to like it.
Yeah. And here's the thing is he would know how to play in the media too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He would.
It's the same reason why, like with the other ones, you have to realize it's like there's going to be pieces of false and true information in all these reports.
Yep.
Like I'll buy that Mason Graham isn't being talked about, probably because every single evaluator in the NFL decided what they knew about Mason Graham 2.5 months ago. And so no one's talking about him anymore. So the conversation has gone down. He probably won't fall, but Walter Nolan probably will jump 10 spots.
Yeah.
It just isn't going to be a connected thing. It's going to be teams shut up about the good players because they don't want teams to know that they're obsessed with them.
Right. Exactly. That happened with Mike Martz and Adam Archuleta. He fell in love with Archuleta. He had to leave the workout because he was so enthralled and he didn't want to have people see how enthralled he was. By the way, you remember what Deion's last job was before he took the Jackson State coaching job?
He was in the media.
NFL Network. Yeah, 21st.
So he
Prime.
knows.
Yep.
So he knows how to work that.
And that came from an NFL media reporter.
Yes, that makes sense to me. I could actually see that approach too. I know that some people would say that'd be counterproductive, but still that'd be interesting. I see some people asking about Luther Burden if we think that he will go in the first round.
I think there's a chance.
I've looked at it, but I've looked at a
Luther's
lot
going
of mock
first.
drafts. It's kind of dependent. It seems like that's kind of up in the air. Either way, is there a team that you think would be a really good fit for Luther Burden? Because I'm thinking about maybe the 49ers or even the Broncos. If we're just talking
the
about
Broncos are an interesting fit.
I think
the 49ers, after having taken Pearsall last year, they still have the money tied up in Ayuk. And
are they going to be looking to move Ayuk in the future?
They might, but they just have no defensive linemen left. They cut them all.
Yeah.
So
money's a big issue for the 49ers.
And they want to sign Purdy, right?
Yeah.
So, but you want to have him have as many weapons as possible. But I would be surprised. I don't. People are saying Kansas City, but Rice is coming back. They re-signed Hollywood Brown. They've got Xavier Worthy.
Redskins,
Commanders.
Commanders.
Do. That's fine. I like that better.
I
think-
would love San Diego.
San Diego Superchargers.
I was thinking 40. Well, the other part of my thinking with 49ers is no Deebo Samuel. So then you have an offensive weapon that Kyle Shanahan could use right away. Broncos, same thing. Another offensive mind there with Sean
Mhm.
Payton. Maybe he could be a red zone weapon for them,
Yeah.
for the Broncos. I feel like those are good fits. Of course, who knows exactly where he'll land.
How about Green Bay?
I think Green Bay would be an interesting
And people
one.
think that Green Bay is going to take a receiver in the first round. Matt LaFleur would love having a guy like Luther Burden on his side.
So you think first round for Luther Burden?
I kind of think no. Matthew's saying absolutely first round. I kind of think no, though. I think that, and it depends on the way things fall. Like if Simmons falls to the Chiefs, I think they'll take him. Historically, Sean Payton has liked receivers to be a little bit taller than Luther Burden is.
And Luther Burden's about what, 5'9", 5'10"?
Yeah, 5'10", 5'11", that area. He's the exact same size as Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Yeah, but name one time where Sean Payton drafting big receivers worked, like in the 7th round out of Hofstra.
Yeah, really.
Stop. Come on, Randy. What are you doing here?
That's a good point. That's a good point.
But Luther's doing great. I saw
And
on
he-
his Instagram, didn't he just sign a big contract with, maybe it's Adidas or
He might have.
some brand that he just signed with?
Yeah.
So he is doing a good job.
And he had a good combine, and he's a good guy.
He's not a diva. Like, I
no.
think that was the most ridiculous statement ever. I couldn't believe that somebody would actually put that out there. I think that if you were just looking at maybe those specific games where he had some body language where he was frustrated, of course he's going to be frustrated in those situations, but Luther Burden's a good dude.
Yeah, and he's a competitor. People are mad at a guy for being competitive.
Like, don't you care?
Yeah, right.
Isn't that a positive nowadays?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It just teams want explosive playmakers,
And
so
he's
that's
explosive.
That's what Luther Burden is, and he's not undersized like some of these guys who bring this style. I think, and so I think I would be shocked if he doesn't go in.
Man, it was fun. If you guys ever got to go over and see Luther Burden play at East St. Louis,
Mhm.
you knew
my
there.
God.
I have been lucky enough in my short career to cover certain guys in high school where you knew in high
Yeah.
school that they were going to make it, and Luther Burden was that guy. I still have on my phone video of him when he was at East St. Louis where a guy goes to grab him to try to bring him down, and Luther Burden really literally spins him off of him and keeps going.
I think
Amazing.
that you talking about that makes me think that like there is nothing better than seeing a prime high school athlete return a punt. 'Cause,
Yeah,
like,
and he was
Luther
great
would do
at
that.
it.
He would let it bounce one time,
And then he was off.
and then he would just get one step, and you were dead. Your team was dead in the water as soon as he touched the ball on the punt return. There was nothing more fun than watching Luther Burden highlights when he would do that.
He
So
was
good.
great. Yeah, he was great to watch in high school.
By
For
the
sure.
way, at the combine, he checked in at 6'206" and ran a 4.41 40. So that's pretty good. And Amon-Ra St. Brown, 6'202" as opposed to 6'206". And let me see what his combine 40 time was. I think it might have been like half second less. He did I'm Googling this, kids. Hold on here 1 second. Waiting. Slow internet today. So, well, anyway, I hope Luther Burden wins.
Oh, it is Under Armour that he signed with.
Oh,
Thank
good
you,
for him.
DC3. Yeah, that's what it was. Under Armour.
Okay.
So he's doing a
So,
great
yeah,
job.
he's gonna. Okay, Amon-Ra had a. He had a 40 time.
Brian Hudson's calling Luther a diva. He's a wide receiver.
Who's Brian Hudson?
He's on the Twitter on the.
Oh,
chat.
okay.
He's calling him a diva. He's I think leaning on the McShay report. He's a wide receiver relative to wide receiver divaness. I mean, he's like a 6. Come on,
Yeah.
you want him to have that mentality. We were just talking about Jordan Walker not having the confidence.
Have you seen that Kadarius Toney is a rapper, by the way, now?
Yeah,
has
that's with a
it.
different name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's that. I was just thinking about wide receivers and divas, and I'm like, man, there's a long list, and that's it kind of comes with it.
Terrell Owens is in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that, speaking of guys who had rap careers, have you noticed that as he's a serious Major League Baseball player, we haven't really heard Victor Scott put out any new music?
I wonder why.
He was working on it in New York,
Was he
wasn't
really?
he? Yeah, didn't you see in New York? He
Yeah.
actually went to the studio.
My thing is, I think if you're an athlete, keeping that quiet is smart, because if
He put it out there. Like, he put it
I'm
out. He was on
surprised.
Instagram. Yeah, that he was out at the studio when they were in New York.
By the way, one other note here from the combine:
Kickers are the real divas.
Luther Burden III's prospect grade, according to NFL.com,
Uh-huh.
was 6.43. Is 6.43. Amon-Ra St. Brown's coming out of college was 6.21. I think we'd all take Amon-Ra on our team, wouldn't we?
Yeah, I think so.
So he'll be fine. He's not a diva. He's
No.
a good kid.
He is.
So we'll give him the benefit of the doubt. You know, if it doesn't work out for him in the NFL, he can always join the St. Louis Battlehawks. And you can join the St. Louis Battlehawks too, because they've got stuff happening that's really cool. And if you'd like to maybe get a hold of that Battlehawks box, it's delicious. If you're a Battlehawks fan, check out Battlehawks Hub Weekly, now available on Sports Hub STL. And you can hear Luke Slaybaugh and Judy Straughter as they get you set for every Battlehawks game. And Sports Hub STL's Battlehawks coverage is presented by Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken. With the new Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken Battlehawks box, you can score up to 30% off Battlehawks tickets, plus get 4 of their famous breast strips and a side of potato wedges, delicious, for just $8.99, only at Lee's Famous for Chicken.
Yummy.
Looks great, doesn't it?
It does.
Whew, we got to get that. That was fun. Thanks to Jamal Mayers. So who's staying up to watch the whole game tonight? I am. Everybody is. Good.
Yes.
LGB
Let's go Blues.
and Thomas.
And Robert Thomas. Yes.
Yeah.
Who's out there on the ice today. So that's exciting.
That's important. We need
It is
to
very
have,
important.
we need to have him playing. Brooke, did you have fun today?
Yes.
Matthew, great job as always. That's our
Yeah.
audio video engineer, the one, the only Matthew Rocchio. And I'm Randy Karraker. Thanks for joining us on the Randy Karraker Show featuring Brooke Grimsley. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 10:02 on Sports Hub STL.